What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're joined by Dom C of the Green Bean Jet Fan. We're running back our series of mock drafts that we've been doing. We're running it back. I don't know what else to say, but this time we one up to the first mock draft to 2 rounds. We're one upping that mock draft. We're doing 3 rounds. How you feeling about running 3-round mock draft, Dom?
Oh man, I think Tigo, I think your followers and viewers are going to get tired of us at some point. But the good thing is that the real draft happens on Thursday, so this is probably the coup de grace, if you will.
It's the
I'm
last
ready
one.
though, man. I'm ready. Listen, I think it's such a good exercise, and it's not. It's such a good exercise to get out of the first round because everybody knows. Who kind of, or, the same 2 or 3 players that can go here in the first round, here in the first round. But I tell you, they don't know what Denver's doing at 66 or 67 or wherever they pick. You know what I mean? We haven't
Yeah.
talked about them, so
Yeah.
let's
Like,
let's give the fans what they want.
this is a great opportunity because we don't get to talk about linebackers. There's not a single first-round linebacker in this
Right.
class.
Right.
But there's like 4 guys that can go in the second.
Yeah,
There's like
absolutely.
8, 9 guys that can go in the second or the third. And it really gives us a really cool opportunity to talk about these guys and some of these tackles and finally get to talk about wide receivers not named Jackson Smith and Ajigba or Zay Flowers. Like, it's
Yeah.
going to be a fun time. And to put an even bigger wrinkle on it, normally when me and Dom do these mock drafts, we do he gets the evens, I get the odds, so on and so forth. No, we've split it up by a conference. I am going to be doing all of the AFC teams, and Dom is going to be doing all of the NFC teams. And we did this just so that you're trading with your own assets in the 3rd round, so that I'm not taking one of Dom's picks. Like, if I trade up with Houston for whatever reason, they have 2 even picks in the 1st round, but their first pick in the 2nd round is number 33, and I'd be dipping into Dom's pool. So this gives us a really cool way to do it. Dom, Carolina is on the clock. Where are they going with this year's draft?
Listen, first round, like I said, everyone knows kind of, sort of, who's going to go where, especially, I think, very much so with this pick in particular. I think the right end's on the wall. I know he's not your QB number 1, Tigo, but I think he's going to be the first name that we hear on Thursday. And I'm going to go ahead and take the quarterback, Bryce Young, out of Alabama.
Yep, I agree. Again, he's not my guy. He's not the pick that I would make, but Frank Reich is a quarterback whisperer. He knows more than me. And this really sucks for the Houston Texans because I believe all of the smoke when it comes to the Houston Texans situation.
Me too.
When it comes to the whole quarterback situation. But I don't know if Caserio can justify in his everything not going quarterback here. And I called this really, really early on in the process. I have text messages with my friend the moment D'Amico Ryans was hired that I said the Houston Texans are making their pick at number 2, and this is the guy that they're going to go with. And watch out, because I actually think this is going to happen. I think they're going to go Will Levis here at number 2.
Okay. I'm starting to hop on the train that thinks that they might not go quarterback at all.
It's one of the wills, right? I just don't know if you can really justify to a fan base that so desperately wants to get back to the playoffs not having a quarterback. And Will Levis seems like a perfect scheme fit for that Shanahanian type of offense that we know that Slowiak's going to be running. The Cardinals are here at 3.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, this is an ideal trade down spot. The Cardinals have tons of holes that they need to fill. I don't think quarterback is in play for them, with them paying a king's ransom to a now injured Kyler Murray. So they're going to talk about where they can move up, and this is the problem that I see with this round. I just don't know who's going to trade up for quarterback. I think ideally, if Levis is on the board, you can see maybe the Colts move up to 3 for Levis. I don't know who else is really going to be yearning for one of these quarterbacks.
Make it fair, because I have Indianapolis, they're not calling because Will Levis is off the board. I think
Yeah.
that they're cool with either one of the other two guys, and they're going to let Arizona do whatever Arizona wants to do.
Yeah, Arizona's gonna go ahead and take what they have as probably their biggest need in edge. But I'm going to sway away from the mock draft rankings, and I'm going to go ahead and take Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. He's young. He's a lot more raw than Will Anderson is, but I think he fits the mold better of what they want on that team. Big wingspan, stout against the run, can still get after the pass. There's been a lot of people, prognosticators, who are questioning Will Anderson's ceiling in the NFL. So again, this is predictive. It's not necessarily what I would do, but I'm going to just go ahead and go with the masses, and I'm going to take Tyree Wilson off the board.
Yep, I agree. And if you've seen my edge class rankings, I have Anderson as my number 3 edge, behind Wilson and Lucas Van Ness because of their ceilings. And I think that they're just so good, those two guys. And the Colts are here at 4, and again, I think this is going to be a little bit of a surprising pick because I think everybody thinks and everybody's probably under the assumption that the right pick here is Anthony Richardson. But that would only work if Indianapolis had someone in the building that they could start. And I don't think that they think Gardner Minshew is that. So they're going to stick. They're going to take their quarterback, and it's going to be C.J. Stroud of Ohio.
Okay. I see him slipping a little bit. I'm starting to buy into the hype that maybe the masses aren't as high on C.J. Stroud as they once were. But, again, this is smoke season, so who knows?
Yep.
Seattle's on the board here. Interesting because all offseason I've been, pounding the table saying that I believe Seattle takes the quarterback here. And I think Anthony Richardson is a perfect fit for them. They can sit and they can groom behind Geno. Geno's going to be a perfect mentor for 2 years before they pass the reins. However, there's still a lot of defensive talent on this board here. And I am not going to let Jalen Carter slip. I think he goes in the top 5. And I think Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks, who have a history of taking, quote unquote surprising picks, kind of deeming their guys. I think that, they see the talent here, and this is the splash that they make, and they're going to take Jalen Carter.
Very, very interesting pick. I would have swore this was the Anthony Richardson pick.
Yeah, no, it makes sense that it could be because I just don't think Seattle's going to be in the realm this high to really be in range for a quarterback. But that leaves me on the board again with Detroit. And Detroit's not going to hesitate, and they're going to just take Will Anderson. He fell. The slide for him stops, and he's the pick.
Yeah. And he matches up as the perfect guy to be on the opposite side of Hutchinson. I like him being the Robin to Hutchinson's Batman. That really matches up really, really well. Yeah. I'm here on the board with the Raiders.
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding.
They're not going to answer the phone.
Okay.
They're not even going to do it. With Anthony Richardson still here, Jimmy Garoppolo being who he is, they're going to try to build for the future, and they're not going to let a guy, a quarterback of this magnitude, go past them. So, I'm sorry that you wanted to come up, but with Anthony Richardson on the board, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, see, I've been hearing a lot that they are absolutely smitten with Devon Witherspoon, and that if he's on the board, he will be the pick. And the question is, will he be on the board? I mean, he could go to Detroit at 6 very easily.
Hell, he could go to Arizona at 3.
Yeah, he could. But that leaves me at 8 here.
8, 9, and 10.
8, 9, and 10, man. Pleasure here. And, listen, the 2 edges that I would have considered here for Atlanta are off the board. I know that some people like wide receiver. I don't see it here. Atlanta is the team that was going to call for Anthony Richardson if he fell. I probably waited too long. I probably should have jumped up with Detroit or Seattle. But I don't see them necessarily in a mode to trade down more. They already have a lot of capital in the first 2 rounds. So Atlanta's going to stick and pick, and I'm going to go with the chalk pick that I've been making for Atlanta the whole time in this mock season. I think they've made a big splash in free agency. I think the one thing that they're missing to finish out the back end of that defense is a running mate with A.J. Terrell. So I'm going to go ahead and take what I think is the best cornerback in the draft, and Devin Witherspoon. Have him opposite A.J. Terrell. They got 2 good safeties there now. It's a force. That defensive backfield is a force to be reckoned with.
Don't forget, they got Jesse Bates, too.
Jesse Bates, yep.
Well, Jesse Bates the third, too. All right, Chicago.
Chicago's up. My fault. Chicago can go a bunch of different ways also, but I think I'm going to take Paris Johnson. He gives them, they need a right tackle. I really think that this could be a Darnell Wright spot, but I'm going to go ahead and take Paris Johnson because if it doesn't work at tackle, he's got the guard flexibility.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, so I think Paris Johnson is probably the consensus number 1 tackle in this class, so I'm going to go ahead and stick and pick. And that leaves Philly at 10.
You want to.
Yeah, I'm not going to, though.
I don't think they do in the end anyway, and we're trying to be predictive here.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Well, if I'm being predictive, there's really 3 guys. There's 3 areas that I think they can address. I think they can address the defensive line. I think they can address the defensive backfield. I think they can address the offensive line. So I look at a win-now team. The biggest hole that they have to fill, and probably the biggest hole that they're going to have on that team in the next couple years with the age that they have on the offensive line is just that. So I'm going to go ahead and lock down Peter Skoronski. He slides in at that right guard right now and possibly could pop outside to tackle if they like him as a tackle as well once Lane Johnson retires. Exactly, because that happens year after year, and it's a perfect fit. They don't have to worry about bumping Cam Jurgens out. He can still be the pipeline to Jason Kelce. It's a good fit, and he's ready. He's the best offensive lineman in this class. So put him at guard, put him at tackle, put him anywhere. He's going to play.
Yep. Tennessee, finally, I get to make a pick. It's been too long. Tennessee is an interesting spot because I just don't know what the right answer for Tennessee is. Tennessee seems like a prime spot for a trade back, for someone coming up. And I think about it, and I think I'm going to do it. And this is going to be a little bit crazy. This is going to be a little bit of a move, of quite of a big move.
Okay. Before you do that, also, I have an offer for you.
Oh, go ahead.
I got a team that wants to come up as well. I'm just going to see if I can make it work in the draft points here. Nah, that's not going to work. Actually, maybe this will. Hang on. Tennessee is what? 1250? That's too much. Okay, I got one for you. Tennessee.
Yep.
Washington wants to come up.
Okay.
Washington will give you 16 and 47 for 11 and 72.
16 and 47 for 11 and 72.
Yeah, slight advantage to Tennessee.
I am going to decline. And the reason is because the team I have coming up at this point in time is desperate to keep up in an AFC East that just got loaded. And they need a premier pass catcher. And they want to get in front of the Houston Texans.
Okay.
And so I'm going to have Buffalo coming up from 27, giving up 91 and next year's first round pick to come all the way up to 11.
27.91 and a first for 11.
Yeah. And I think that gives them an opportunity to get the player that I think is on the best player that I think is on their board at an absolute position of need, and they're going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver. Buffalo said it perfectly when it says good teams win with 2 premier pass catchers. The Buffalo Bills need to keep up in an AFC that just keeps getting stacked, especially now that the Jets have Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah,
boom.
that's a big move up. I love it. I mean, as a Jets fan, I hate it.
Yep.
But it absolutely makes sense. I think it'd be a great pick for Buffalo. Yeah, there's not much to it. I mean, Tennessee recoups, a later pick. They get a third. They get the first next year. I can't argue with it.
Yep. And so I have the Houston Texans here at 12, and they took the quarterback in the with their first pick at number 2, and now they're here at number 12, and they're a little upset. Jackson Smith-Njigba is gone. I don't think anybody's going to be in love with any of these other kinds of wide receivers. Specifically, I don't look at Houston as being one of those teams. I think they're going to pivot, and I think that they're going to go get the next best edge rusher on my board, and that's going to be Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. He screams Robert Saleh, defensive lineman, can play outside, can play inside. You can wide 9 at the 7. He can do it all. And when you look at D'Amico Ryans as a Robert Saleh disciple, translating that over to Houston makes a ton of sense. They get a stud on the edge.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good fit for Houston as well. So, and Green Bay's on the board, and I want to just pass on this pick with all the Green Bay nonsense that we've been dealing with over the past however long we've been dealing with it. But I digress. Let me just check something out here on their depth chart. Man.
I know that you're looking at stuff. I'm trying to see if there's a trade. I'm trying to think if this team is desperate, if they're this desperate to go up. No, they're not. Never mind. Shouldn't even have brought it up.
Man, this is tough, but I'm going to go ahead and stick the pick anyway. I'm between 2 guys here. I'm really, really, really considering an offensive tackle, a David Bakhtiari replacement in the pipeline. They have Zach Tom. They have Rasheed Wallace as backups. I know that they also signed Yash Neiman to a tender, and he's back on the roster. Somebody that they actually like a lot. But yeah, I just think that that you got to give some weapons to the kid, right?
Yep.
You got to give some weapons to Jordan Love. And I'm going to go ahead and be very, very chalky and take the first tight end off the board. I think he screams Green Bay Packer, and that's Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
Yeah. And because I feel like Michael Mayer is so good in the run game as well, like in blocking in line, there's your de facto 6th lineman. He's not Darnell Washington, but he can still do that really, really well. Patriots need a right tackle. They're going to take a right tackle. Darnell Wright, you're a New England Patriot. I think that makes so much sense. They need an offensive line. They haven't been able to find a replacement for Mac Jones. I don't think that they're going to be able to go find a replacement for Mac Jones. So with all of that being said, boom, you get an offensive lineman, and then Riley Reif, the guy that you just signed, can be your swing tackle. And then I'm back on the clock with the New York Jets.
Drum roll, please.
Let me ask, is any NFC team calling?
Nope.
No, I don't think any AFC team is calling either. So I think that the Jets are...
I mean, listen, could I force a trade? Yeah, I think I could.
Of course, right?
I mean, nah, I guess I could.
I'm thinking about it.
Tampa Bay might be interested in coming up and they need a tackle, but I just don't know. I just don't know. Let's see if I can make this work.
I'm just looking around. I'm trying to see who's interested, who wants to come up, who sees something that they might need or might want to get in front of Washington. And I don't see it. I think we're pushing it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick and pick. Broderick Jones, you're a New York Jet. And then
he's your guy anyway.
yeah, no, I love Broderick Jones, and this isn't an anti-Broderick Jones take. I love Broderick Jones, but after the report from Green Bean that the New York Jets are trying to trade out of 15, and again, it comes down to your argument. It's just like for you to trade back, someone has to be wanting to come up, and at this point, I don't really see a ton of value in moving up from one of the AFC teams.
Yeah, no, you're right. But Washington's on the clock. And Washington's in a real precarious situation here. Because they got some guys on the board that I think fit really nice. However, I'm going to go ahead and offer a trade and see if I can make this work.
Can I was thinking about this. Can I offer a trade?
You sure can. I'll listen to it.
Can the Pittsburgh Steelers want to come up one spot? They want to go from 17 to 16. And they're willing to give you a 4th round pick to do it. So they'll give you 120 to move back one spot.
I'm going to decline. And that's because I think I have a better offer in tow from the Detroit Lions.
Oh, then, yeah. Now it's a bidding war because they're coming up for Christian Gonzalez. That's who the Steelers were coming up for.
Yeah, they are coming up for Christian Gonzalez. And
they'll sweeten the pot. The Pittsburgh Steelers will give you 17 and 80, so a 3rd round pick.
I've already accepted the Detroit offer.
What's the Detroit offer?
Before you shot it? It's 18 and 81. It was already accepted before you offered 17 and 80. So Detroit's going to come up, and Detroit is just smitten to see Christian Gonzalez still on the board. Christian Gonzalez is a Detroit Lion. Washington still has some guys on the board that they really like. They're comfortable where they are, and they gained a 3rd round capital to do so. So,
yep. Steelers are not very happy, but this is no consolation prize when it looks at who they're getting. They're going to be drafting the cornerback Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez is in a different league. I would consider a different tier, right? I guess is the better way to say it. But Joey Porter is no schmuck either. I like him a lot. Keep him in Pennsylvania. And I'm pretty sure his father played for the Steelers, didn't he?
He did. He sure did. And Washington's now on the board after dropping back 2 spaces, which they were comfortable in doing, because they had some guys in Joey Porter, and the next guy that I'm going to take off the board in line, right around the same, the same level. They're going to keep, the hometown kid close, and they're going to take Deonte Banks, pure press man, cornerback, big body opposite Benjamin St-Juste over there. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And the run of cornerbacks has started.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm on the board here with Tampa Bay, who needs a bunch of stuff here, Tampa Bay. There's no quarterback that they are, very much interested in. Let me see something here. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and make an offer.
Ooh, another trade.
NFC to NFC team. So if you have something,
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about maybe a team wanting to come up for a Bijan or a Nolan Smith or something like that, and I don't think anybody's super worried about either one of those guys. The Chargers don't feel like they need to get in front of Seattle or to convince Tampa not to take Bijan, and yeah.
So let me see if I can make this work before I do that. Before I announce it. Tampa is there, and Tampa is there. And then let's check the trade value chart here, folks. So, no, gonna need to add a little bit more. Okay, so here's the offer. Let's see if it goes through. No, it was declined. I'm going to give it one more shot, and if it doesn't go through, I'm not going to force anything. So Tampa has holes, right?
Yep.
And I think offensive tackle makes sense for them.
Yep.
I just question if the next tier, whether it's Anton Harrison or DeJuan Jones, if this is too early. I think by moving back a little bit gives them the opportunity to
Accumulate some more picks.
kind of accumulate some more picks and still be in that realm.
Tampa also has a ton of picks in this year's draft, so they can move back and then come right back up.
Yeah, they do. You're right. And this, for
They have
me,
9
just
picks.
this just smells like something that would happen. So I'm going to go ahead and I got this trade accepted. And Tampa's going to slide back to 26, and Dallas is going to be on the clock. Dallas traded pick 26, their third rounder, and a third rounder next year to move up to 19 to go ahead and take Bijan Robinson.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and Seattle's back on the clock.
Ring, ring.
I'm
Ring,
listening.
ring.
I'm listening.
The Super Bowl champs
Whoa.
want to come up to 20. And let's see the value, right?
That's a big jump here.
Yes. Yes, it is. This is pick, obviously, 20. 850 points. So they'll be willing to give you, Kansas City will give you 31 and 63. 31, 63, and to sweeten the pot just a little bit, 166.
I'm going to accept, and here's why. Because I think Seattle's kind of has somebody in mind that should be on the board later on in 30 in the late first round. So I'll accept that. What was that?
Fantastic.
What was that
And
again?
it was 31, 63, and 166.
Okay. 31, 63, and 166.
They overpay a little bit to have the Seattle Seahawks drop, 10 spots in the first round. But after all of the I don't think it's smoke, but after all of the news of Kansas City falling in love with Zay Flowers and Patrick Mahomes really, really likes him and all of that stuff, you should be, if you're Kansas City, in make Patrick happy mode. And you just won a Super Bowl. So keep that guy happy. Go get him as wide receiver so that he finally has people to throw the ball to. Zay Flowers, welcome to Kansas City. And now the Chargers are back up on the clock, and they're absolutely furious because that's who they wanted. They wanted Zay Flowers and Bijan. So both of the guys that they wanted went in back-to-back picks. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to look at this pick really, really side-eyed. You might be one of them, Dom. But I keep seeing the reports that there's going to be 2 running backs going in the first round. And I'm going to have the Chargers be the team that takes the other running back here in the first round. Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Welcome to Los Angeles, right? They're not San Diego anymore.
Yeah, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up in the first round. I think 21 might be a little rich for me, but nonetheless, that's the pick.
Yep.
And Baltimore's still on the board.
And then, Baltimore is here, and they were contemplating moving up and doing all of that stuff, but they're not going to do it. A top 10 talent fell into their lap, and Nolan Smith fits that scheme super well as an outside linebacker, can drop into coverage, can do all that stuff, and hat on a hat, a defense just gets better on defense, and boom. And you're on the clock with the Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota. Let's see here. Completely changing the defensive scheme with Brian Flores at the helm. Brian Flores needs his very strong defensive backs. Plays a lot of press man on the outside, brings blitzes from all over the place. The cornerback room here, though, is a little bit I just think it's too early for some of these guys.
Yep.
Nah. You know what? It's not. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and draft arguably the best slot corner in this draft. And his name is Brian Branch from Alabama.
Ooh.
I know that pisses Jacksonville off, but
Oh,
listen,
Jacksonville is so mad.
Listen, the depth chart that Minnesota has in the defensive backfield, they have. Who do they have? They have Andrew Booth, who is not a man corner. He's a zone, he's a zone-based cornerback. They, I think, signed Byron Murphy to play the nickel, and they have. Who's the other guy? Caleb Evans. Who I don't know much of. Tay Gowan's also on that team. Joejuan Williams is on that team. So they need an influx of talent. Brian Branch might be the best man cover slot cornerback that we've seen come out in a while. I know he's listed as a safety. Everyone thinks he's a safety. He's very versatile. I think his home is going to be as a slot cornerback, and Minnesota's stoked.
And Jacksonville's furious. And honestly, so am I, because now I need to look at Jacksonville to figure out what they're going to do, because that's just such a perfect fit. Brian Branch.
I know what Jacksonville. I know this. I know what I would do for Jacksonville.
It almost seems like Kalijah Cansey has to do the pick here.
I don't know if that's where I would go, but I'm going to say this to you. They just lost one of their tackles. They have Walker Little right now listed as one of their starting tackles. I think, to me, Brian Branch is the ideal pick, but the fallback has to be an offensive tackle here. This is the range.
You don't think it would be an interior guy?
No,
I don't know if Walker.
I think cornerback. I think cornerback is in play. If you like, if Brian Branch is there, or if one of those guys like a Porter or something like that slips, I think cornerback's in play. Outside of that, I think their next big gaping hole on that team is the offensive tackle.
I get what you're saying. I don't agree, and I think that they had the worst center play in the NFL last year, second only to Houston. And if they can't get Brian Branch, get the 5th year of control on a John Michael Schmitz. And that's the pick here at 24.
I just spent some capital last year on a center, I believe. But John Michael Schmitz, he's flexible. He can do a little bit of everything. So let's get him off the board.
I believe it was a 4th that they used.
Luke Fortner?
Yeah, I think he was a 4th round pick for them.
Yeah.
And he can bump out to guard or something like that. You really need to just solidify. I think the interior of the offensive line is more important right now. I think Walker Little is. Look, I'm not happy about the pick. I just think it's.
Hey, listen, it makes sense. It makes sense. I'll say that. The Giants are on the board. I'm going to go ahead and keep feeding weapons to Daniel Jones, and I'm going to give him a wide receiver cut in a different mold from all the slot, small, shifty guys that they have, and take Quentin Johnson off the board from TCU.
Yep.
He's the wide receiver that they don't have on this team. Isaiah Hodgins is nice, but he's a big slot. Quentin Johnson's your Alpha X.
Yep.
And Tampa Bay's back on the board, and all is well in the land of Tampa Bay. I'm not going to hesitate here. Anton Harrison's the pick. He's probably would have been the pick if they stayed at 19. But now he's the pick here at 26.
Very, very interesting. Tennessee is on the board, and they're going to do a pick that it was too rich to make at 11, but dropping back all the way to 27 made a ton of sense for this team. And they picked up a first-round pick in next year's draft where they're going to be able to move up for a quarterback. Jordan Addison, welcome to Tennessee. And now you got two really good wide receivers in Traylon Burke and Jordan Addison, young guys that provide very different skill sets and can complement each other very well. And then I'm back on the clock with the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're going to jump with joy because Dalton Kincaid is still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's that. Like, that's the most Bengals pick the Bengals can make. Hey, let's address the interior of the offensive line? Nah. Let's address the tackle position? Nah. Let's make our average defense better? Nah. Let's get another weapon for Joe Burrow, and let's just beat teams by scoring 60 points. And that's what they do.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I got Saints. Man, the Saints can go in a couple different ways here. Should I do that? That's the question.
Yes. He's such a saint. I think I've heard he's already left Texas to move to New Orleans.
Man, I just can't seem to get away. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just take. The slide's got to stop. Myles Murphy's got to come off the board. He's he's an edge rusher that is probably going to be off the board in the top 20. I mean,
should be.
The player and the ceiling's so high. I don't know how much more time Cam Jordan has in the league, but you're gonna, I know that if I'm not mistaken, they brought in. No, they didn't. Did they lose Peyton Turner?
Yes. Didn't he go to
Minnesota?
No, I thought he went to Atlanta.
Atlanta or Minnesota, one of them. But yeah, Myles Murphy, you're a New Orleans Saint. Welcome aboard.
Oh yeah.
And the Eagles are on the board, and
yeah, you get to keep going.
Yeah, I got a couple here. The Eagles are interesting because I think Myles Murphy would have been great for them. I
wanted that to be the pick.
I really, really think that Jahmyr Gibbs makes a whole lot of sense for them as well. They've already addressed the hole in the offensive side of the board, and I'm going to address the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to take a guy who not only is a guy I would take, but I think predictively he's something that the Eagles covet on their defensive line. Inside-outside flexibility, can affect the game, is athletic as hell. Tommy Adebawore from Northwestern. Your edge, inside, outside, edge rusher, inside rusher. Extraordinaire. I think he's a first-round talent. I can't speak highly enough of him. I think he fits the bill for what the Eagles want on their defensive line. They got a line that's aging. Bring in a guy that can play multiple positions in multiple different sets, and Adebawore is that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And Seattle's on the board.
Keep it going.
Seattle's on the board, and they took Jalen Carter, and they got a bunch of other picks here. So I'm going to go ahead and when I traded down, I targeted a couple of different guys. And they're all here, as a matter of fact, which is very, very interesting. So which one am I going to take is the question. I'm going to keep it very Seattle-ish and kind of go to a position I think is a sneaky little need for them, something that they like to do. We know that Seattle wants to run the ball first, right? They run the ball, they go play action a lot, and I'm not going to address. I know I know people might be thinking, like this is an offensive line spot. With all the capital that they have, I mean, they have 2 more picks in the next 8 selections, I'm going to go ahead and pass on the interior line, and I'm going to take the 5th-year option on tight end Darnell Washington from Georgia.
Wow.
Listen,
Not
they
what
got
I
they got
expected.
they got Noah Fant. Noah Fant's under contract for 2 more years, but they will and they like to run a lot of heavy personnel, and if that's what you're going to do, there's no better tight end in the league to bring into the league to do it than Darnell Washington. I think Darnell Washington's going to be a first-round pick. I think there's going to be 3 tight ends taken in this first round, so I make it happen here, and that's round 1. And Pittsburgh is on the clock to start round 2.
And DeJuan Jones is going to Pittsburgh. I think it's that simple. They need help on the offensive line. DeJuan Jones is the last of that top 6, the guys that I feel really comfortable with at the offensive line. DeJuan Jones can immediately slot in at their right tackle, and I think they're happy with it. And then Houston is on the board. They went offensive. They went and got quarterback in the first round. They went and got edge in the first round, but they definitely need to address the offensive line with this pick, and specifically not with anything other than they have to get a center. I think they really, really need to get a center. And of the guys that are here, while I think Joe Tippmann makes the most sense in terms of scheme fit, I think Steve Avila is a better prospect and a better player right now than Joe Tippmann. And so they're going to take Steve Avila to play center for them. And yeah, you're up with.
Well, Avila is so flexible. I actually think he's going to find his home at guard more so than at center. But again, that flexibility and what he can provide and how good he is, how staunch he is against the pass. You know, you got a rookie quarterback in there. Give him somebody that's going to protect him, so I'm not going to argue.
He's got
with
such
that
a
pick.
good anchor. Like the middle of the offensive line not collapsing, I think is such a big deal. So, and that's what Steve Avila provides. It's just one of the best anchors. He's going to be able to go one-on-one with nose tackles all day and just stop them dead in their tracks.
Yeah. Arizona's up, and Arizona has 2 picks in this round. I really want to take a cornerback for them, and I'm on the fence with a guy like Cam Smith. I'm on the fence with a guy like Tyreek Stevenson. I just don't know if the value is all there comparatively to some of the other holes they have. So I'm going to go ahead and address some of the other holes, and I'm going to take the center that you left on the board in Joe Tippmann right off. They have a gaping hole at center. He's just plug and play and set it and forget it. And the Colts are on the board at 35.
Yeah, so they took their quarterback in the first round. Obviously, they took C.J. Stroud. And I think the priority for Indianapolis should be surrounding their young quarterback with as many pieces and things that they can do to just make their team better. And yeah, they have good tackles. They have one good guard. They've got a good center. But I'm gonna keep this run on offensive linemen going, and I'm gonna take. I don't know how he's still on the board at this point, but he's such a good guard. The value's too good to pass up, and I'm gonna take O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida.
Makes sense. It absolutely makes sense, my friend.
Like I wanted to go tight end, I wanted to go wide receiver, but O'Cyrus Torrence is just it's that like he's the best player on your board. Like clearly of the guys who's left probably at a position of need. So you just go get them.
The Rams have a ton of holes to fill. You can throw a dart at a board and make it stick and hit
It'll
on
be a
just
need.
about any of these guys. Exactly, it'll be a need. But I'm going to address the edge, and I'm going to take a guy that has a real opportunity to be a first-round pick. I love the talent. I love the fit here. Will McDonald from Iowa State is going to Los Angeles.
This is a great pick. I would have loved
Yeah.
to see what Kalijah looks like next to another pit monster in Aaron Donald, but I think you're right. Will McDonald has that ability to. I think he could be a first-round pick.
Yeah. Seattle's on the board. And like I said, Seattle has some more picks here, right? They got
4 more picks.
In the next 3
37,
rounds,
52, 63, and 83.
Yeah, Seattle's going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm between two guys, and I'm just trying to gauge on whether I think one of them will slip to their next pick. I don't think it's going to. Really, Osiris Torrance was the guy I was honing in on. I thought he'd be able to get the 37 when I passed on him for Darnell Washington. I'm not upset that I took Washington there. But is that a reach?
It's interesting because I think Darnell would have made it to 37.
Yeah, I don't know. Houston's, well, I mean, they did sign what's his face from Dallas. Here's
What's his
what
name?
I'm gonna do.
This is a white boy. I can think. I'm looking at him.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put more speed on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to take Jalen Hyatt. He slides in as a slot receiver right here in Seattle right now. When the time comes and oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Who plays opposite? Yeah, and when Lockett's getting up there in age and he retires, Hyatt can bounce outside. I thought Josh Downs, but Josh Downs is going to stay in the slot only. I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Hyatt. I mean, speed kills, right?
Yep.
And they've really, really addressed the offensive side of the ball. They got tons more picks. I just didn't like the value of the interior offensive lineman here.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it. The Raiders are on the clock, and they're going to get Crosby a running mate, and that's going to be Kalijah Kancey. They need help on the defensive side of the ball. They got the dream situation in the quarterback in the first round without having to move up. So they're going to stick and pick. And this is a guy that I have a first-round grade on. And getting him at the top of the second, just phenomenal value.
Yeah.
And boom.
I know the
Max
Jets
Crosby
fan.
is somebody.
The Jets fans were drooling. I was really curious to see. I mean, I love Kalijah Kancey. Outside of Tampa Bay, I didn't have any teams that I thought really fit. Philly, I think, is looking for somebody more edge heavy. Seattle had already taken a defensive tackle. I mean, I could have considered him to play for New Orleans. However, they signed 2 defensive tackles in free agency. To me, I thought the Myles Murphy drop had to stop there. So I'm on the board of Carolina. And we can go a bunch of different ways, but I think it's kind of easy for me here. Let me just check the depth chart on something. Carolina. Yeah, I think I'm pretty set here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and take Carolina's big holes are on what I see on the whole is along that defensive line. I mean, they have an all-stud nose tackle in Derek Brown. They signed Deshaun Williams. They got Henry Anderson backing him up. They got Shy Tuttle, I believe, as well, playing the opposite 5-tech 4-eye. I'm going to go ahead and take Brian Brise. Keep him home in Carolina. He can bounce inside and outside, has that flexibility. I think he'll make a great 5-tech, in an odd man front there that they're now going to establish. In Carolina, I think Kalijah Kancey would have been ideal pick right there, but he didn't last, so there's that. And the Saints are back on the board after taking edge Myles Murphy. The Saints. come March in. Wow, they could have really used one of those two guys there also. But I'm going to move to the offensive side of the ball. I know the guy didn't play all that much this year, but the talent is there. If he can show that, if he can show he's past that back injury, I think it's really going to be a steal. I'm going to take Luke Musgrave, the tight end from Oregon State, for New Orleans.
Great pick here. Great pick. When did favorite target for Derek Carr when he was in Vegas was Waller, for the longest time, and another tight end that he can start working and getting there with.
Yeah.
Tennessee is on the board.
I got a ring for you here.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah. And if you're willing to move back 3 spots from 41 to 43, I will throw you 110.
I have the Jets.
110.
Oh. But you said 41 to 43.
41 to 44, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
You move down 3 spots and you gain a high 4th.
They have so many holes. They're
they're in trade down mode, man.
They're gonna take it.
Let's make it work on mine too. So that's Atlanta moving up to Tennessee. And the offer is 44 and 110 for 41, which is a very, very fair offer. And Atlanta's on the board, and this is where Hendon Hooker comes off the board.
Ooh.
You get to see what Hendon Hooker, let him get healthy. You have the kid from Cincinnati they drafted last year in the 3rd round who, might be a very good backup. I don't know if he's going to cut it. And listen, this is the kind of shot that you take if you're Atlanta, right? It's a fair assessment. Roll the dice. Hendon Hooker, rest up. You're going to challenge next year with Desmond Ridder. And Green Bay's on the board.
Yes, they are.
Green Bay's on the board for a bunch of picks coming up now. Now that they have all of ours.
Yeah, 42, 45, and 78.
Yeah, and I'm still going to address the offensive side of the board, and I'm still going to address feeding Jordan Love some assets, and I'm going to do what Green Bay does and really check my measurables here and take Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver from Tennessee, off the board.
It's a great pick. It's a great pickup.
You line him up as your X, and now you have 3 very, very good wide receivers along with Michael Mayer there. You're supporting Jordan Love, and that's just what they haven't done for Aaron Rodgers in a long time.
I'm very, very interested to see, because these are the wide receivers that really start going. And here's the thing. I like that you made this pick because now you've scared a team into coming up to 43.
Okay.
And that's what you've done with this pick. Because now we see that Tennessee is in sell mode. They're not going to stick and pick really anywhere. Green Bay can sell 45 of their second picks. You've scared the Chargers, who lost out on 2 players in the 1st round. They're not going to let this kid keep on going. So the Chargers are going to come up 11 spots. Let me work it out. NYJ real quickly to make sure that the points work.
I know who you're coming up for, and I like it. I like it a lot.
And you know what? This works out great for the New York Jets. What are we missing? A 3rd round pick. We're going to pick up a 3rd round pick, and we're gonna. Yeah.
What's the offer so I can put it in my simulator here?
We're going. They're gonna come up. They're going to go from 54 to 43, and they're giving up 85.
I like it. And the Chargers are on the clock.
And they're taking Josh Downs.
Josh Downs, absolutely. Great. And that's something that I could absolutely see.
Yep.
I absolutely could see that happening. And that's a great pick. If they come out of here with
the guys that are here on the board still that the New York Jets could absolutely be in love with, dropping 10 spots still guarantees you the fact that you're still going to walk away with either a defensive interior player that you're going to really, really like, a linebacker that you're really, really going to like, a center that you're really, really going to like, hell, even a wide receiver that you're really, really going to like. And picking up a third makes a ton of sense. We already got the offensive tackle in the first round. I was never looking at Josh Downs to come to this team. Doesn't fit the Nathaniel Hackett profile. Let's move back.
I love it.
Oh, I'm back on the clock with Tennessee. I was sitting here waiting for you to pick up
Sorry.
start talking. And no, you're absolutely right. This isn't a place for you to start talking because this is a place for me to start talking. And I think that the Tennessee Titans are finally going to stick. They're finally going to make another pick. They took Jordan Addison in the first round, and they're going to take a guy that I am really, really high on. This guy, I have him projected as an offensive guard at the next level, but he absolutely deserves a shot to win that right tackle job, and that's Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. I love me some Matthew Bergeron as a second-round tackle. Yeah, he's a prospect, but he's best case scenario, he's your right tackle. Worst case scenario, he's your right guard, and I think it's honestly like that. So I love me some Matthew Bergeron, and they've got to address that offensive line in Tennessee, and they do that here with the pick 44.
I love it. I think that's a killer pick. He's a guy, as I've played around with Jets mock drafts, if they either miss out or pass on the offensive tackle in round 1, he's a guy that I'm targeting in this round 2 area for the Jets.
Yeah.
And that leaves me on the clock again for Green Bay. And let's see here. I've already addressed the wide receiver. I've already addressed the tight end. Let's go ahead and move to the inside of the defense. Or maybe not the inside of defense, but the defense period. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Again, got to trust me on this one, Tigo. I'm going to take what I think is the next best slot cornerback in this draft, who's listed as a safety, Antonio Johnson.
Yep, I agree.
Coming off the board, slides in, plays inside. Keyshawn Nixon is there. He's just a guy. You now have Rasul Douglas. You now have Jair Alexander. And you have a mutant athlete in the slot in Antonio Johnson. I like that a lot. I like that a lot for Green Bay. And unfortunately, I think Green Bay's having themselves a hell of a draft so far.
When we're in charge of their draft, it's hard to mess up because we're just the best GMs on the planet, right? That's the reality of it. No, I was talking to Ryan of Jets Talk 24/7 on his call-in show, and I said the problem with safety in this draft is that all of the safeties are either strong safeties or slot corners. All of them. There's not a value in taking a safety high in this year's class because none of them are true free safeties. And your best true free safety is probably a corner convert in Ringo.
Yeah, for sure.
For real. And so when that's the way that this class is, I don't feel super comfortable with any of the safeties, specifically for the Jets. But when you look at converting into a slot corner, it makes a ton of sense. And speaking of corners, the New England Patriots are going to stick here at 46, and they're going to take a corner, and they're going to take one of my favorite risers. I don't know why he was so low on people's boards. I believe you got to meet him at the Senior Bowl, and that's Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback out of Miami. guy in my backyard, unfortunately going to the New England Patriots. They need help outside, and Tyreek Stevenson absolutely gives them the physicality. And honestly, the way that I like to look at Tyreek Stevenson is he's a ball of clay. And when you get the best defensive play caller in the NFL, right, historically, you give him a ball of clay that has all the tools, watch out, because we might be talking about Tyreek Stevenson as one hell of a corner sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great pick. I think he's a great player, let alone a phenomenal pick here for New England. I hate to see it. You hate to see it, but I get it, man. It makes sense. So, what to do? So I'm between two guys here for oh man, I am between two guys here for the Commanders. I think both guys cover holes, at least depth for.
Can I tempt you with a trade, good sir?
Oh, I'm always on the board. I'm listening.
The Steelers want to come up 2 spots.
Okay.
And they want to give you a 4th round pick in next year's draft to do it.
Let's see here.
They don't have a 5th, they don't have a 6th, but they're willing to give you a 4th for you to drop 2 spots in next year's draft.
Let me just look at the board one more time. You know what? This is the second time I'm saying no to Pittsburgh, but I'm going to say no.
Oh, you're going to break their heart right here.
Yeah, I think I am. If we're on the same page, I think I am. They just signed veteran Cody Barton to a 1-year deal. Jamin Davis plays the will, has been under kind of whelming at best. But they're not giving up on him. He was a first-round pick just a couple years ago in 2021. I'm going to take Jack Campbell off the board.
Oh, you've done it to us back-to-back times.
Yeah.
In the first and in the second. You've done it to the Steelers.
Listen, they need some offensive line depth as well. But I just, like I said, I don't know where – I don't think the value's better at offensive line at this spot than it is at taking the first linebacker off the board. And arguably the best linebacker in the class. And that leaves me up with
is.
Detroit.
That's not an argument. He is. I love him. He's my favorite.
Detroit's on the board.
Yep.
God, there's still a lot of good players here on the board, but I'm not going to hesitate. This to me, I think this is pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and let me just see something here. Yep, that's that, and that's that, and ooh. Hang on here. Having second thoughts.
Think out loud. Let us think what you're.
So here's I'm gonna talk this out loud with you. To me, I was ready to run to the board for one of the defensive tackles, either Keanu Benton or Mozzie Smith. I think it just makes sense. However, I'm trying to find out contracts here.
For who?
They just signed David Montgomery. Do you know how long that was for?
I believe it was a 1-year deal.
Could running back be in play here? I know that they think DeAndre Smith is a running back by committee guy. David Montgomery could be the strong side of that committee. Yeah, I'm good, dude. I'm going to go ahead and take the defensive tackle. And I'm going to take Keanu Benton.
Ooh, I thought you were about to break their heart again. I thought the Steelers were about to walk away and just be absolutely annihilated. They wanted, obviously, I have the Steelers here. Let's talk about Keanu Benton. I love Keanu Benton. As an interior kind of rusher type of player, He's phenomenal. I think he makes a ton of sense. He's a guy who's going to create and collapse the pocket in the middle, and that's exactly what, Detroit's front four is trying to do. They're really good at that, and he's not so shabby in the run game either. But the Steelers were really looking at. I knew I should have called New England. New England would have done the trade. I should have done it. I had New England. I could have controlled it. New England would have taken the picks, but I didn't. So the Steelers, they miss out on the linebacker, the best linebacker in this year's class, but it's no consolation prize. I've seen this guy go as high in the first round, and it's the other half of the players that you were looking at, and they're going to take Mozzie Smith. They just lost 35 million-year-old Tyson Alualu, and they re-signed Larry Ogunjobi, but we have to remember they run those odd man fronts. Mozzie Smith, in my eyes, can really, because of how athletic he is and how strong he is, even though he's maybe 15 pounds light in what I would truly love in a nose tackle, that's what I project him as at the next level, is a true nose tackle. Line him up over the center and have him create havoc up the middle, and that's what I think they're going to do. And then putting him in that defensive line with Cam Hayward, J.J. Watt, Hightower, I think that it's turning a strength into a strength, right, in what Pittsburgh does. They have a really good defense. They keep it going.
Yeah. Tampa Bay's up, and I think the pick here, you can go a couple different ways, but I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I'm going to take a guy that gets slept on a little bit too much. It's a super athlete. Again, versatile, flexible, can bounce inside and outside along that defensive line where they do need to address. I'm going to take Keon White out of Georgia Tech, be the edge rusher for Tampa Bay. He can slide. He can play 5. He can even go outside as far as wide 9. He's, versatile against the run and the pass. I like the player. A lot.
Yeah. Miami with their first pick in this year's draft, and they're going to try, and they really need to address the tight end position. They lost Gesicki in free agency. I forget where he ended up going.
New England.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah. And so they got to replace that kind of production. And I'm a big fan of Sam Laporta out of Iowa. I'm a huge fan of Sam Laporta out of Iowa. So they're going to take Sam Laporta here at 51 with their first pick.
I like it. It's not the tight end. I like to pick a tight end. It's not the one I would have taken, but that's why you're controlling him, not me.
You take Schumacher over him?
No, I would take Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft's a dog.
I forget about Tucker Kraft, yeah.
Tucker Kraft is a dog. I have Tucker Kraft, I believe it's my tight end 4.
Wow. He's right outside of my tight end. He's my tight end 6 out of my top 5.
Gotcha. So Seattle's on the board. Their calculations worked out. They took Jalen Hyatt earlier in the round, hoping that one of the 2 interior offensive linemen that they liked would fall. And one of them did. You plucked one of them off the board when you took Matthew Bergeron. But I'm going to go ahead and take Cody Mauch here. Just versatile.
Yeah.
He can play anywhere along that offensive line. He can fill in at the he can play the guards. He's going to need to still develop a little bit more play strength. You got to remember, just 2 years ago, the guy weighed 80 pounds. He was a tight end who weighed 80 pounds less than he weighs now. But
put on 81 pounds in one summer.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
Chicago's on the board. That's me. I forgot they picked.
Yeah.
They haven't picked in so long.
Yeah. They sent 32 for Claypool.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Imagine trading a first-round pick for Claypool. Essentially.
Man, how about that? They took their offensive lineman, Paris Johnson.
Yep.
I just want to look at their depth chart a little bit. Wide receiver could be in play, although I'm not crazy about the guys that are on the board here. I think that can wait a little bit. They can run a 4-man front. They did just sign Tremaine Edmonds. They got Jack Samber at linebacker there. They signed T.J. Edwards. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they brought in Edwards and Edmonds.
They did. What to do? What to do? I'm gonna go ahead and take an edge rusher. Um, and I'm going to take one I think that fits that scheme that Eberflus likes to run, and I'm going to take Felix Anaduke Uzama out of Kansas State.
Yeah.
Good, typical 4-3 edge.
Yeah.
Will fit the scheme very well. He's, and he gets at the quarterback too, man.
Yeah.
He is good.
Oh, yeah.
Long,
I love
young.
that pick for them. Especially if they play him on that weak side where he can just try to beat the tackle to the spot, you know what I mean? Light him up on a wide 9, and he's explosive and bendy, and he can – that's his whole game plan, right, is just beat him to the top of the thing and then turn that corner and get to the quarterback. And the Jets are on the board at 54. Now, the pick that I think – there's 2 players here that I'm thinking about. I'm going to think out loud here, and these are both players that the New York Jets have met with. They have done private workouts with both of these guys. And for the sake of change, I'm going to take one player over the other, even though I think that if it comes to draft day, it's going to go the other way around. And the New York Jets, when you look at players that they have met at this position in the draft for the second round, they have met with edge rusher Tuli Tuipulotu, and they have met with linebacker Dion Henley. And in my previous mock draft, I had the New York Jets trading back with Dallas and picking up Dion Henley at 58. But for the sake of change, I'm going to have the New York Jets taking Tuli Tuipulotu here because honestly, I think either one of these players could be a New York Jet. I think either one of these guys could be a guy that the New York Jets could fall in love with. And so, Tuipulotu, welcome to the New York Jets. And come join your fellow Trojan. They're the Trojans, right?
They are.
Yeah, your fellow Trojan and Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah, and he's played all over the line at USC too.
That's why
all over. I mean, he's got inside outside versatility.
This was his first year bumping outside, like truly, because in previous years he was playing almost exclusively on the inside, and this year they moved him all over the line. And that's what I love about him is he's a tweener, right? In that weight, height, size at 266. And the thing that really sold me on Tuli is when you look at his snap counts and where he's taking a majority of his snaps is as a 3-tech. And that's exactly what we asked Sheldon Rankins to do at an insane amount last year, is to play a 3-tech. And so Tuli, even though he's listed as an edge, I think will play that 3-tech for the New York Jets.
I like it. I'm not going to complain about the pick.
Lions are on the board.
Lions are on the board. Yeah, so the Lions need to. They've spent the first 3 picks on the defensive side of the ball, which is very much well needed. But now we're going to go ahead and touch the offensive side of the ball. They need an influx of speed now that they've lost Jameson Williams. So I'm going to go ahead and take Marvin Mims, the speedy wide receiver out of Oklahoma. I think this is the range where he's going to be off the board. Late second, early third. Makes sense to me, especially with the Jameson Williams suspension looming. And Jacksonville's up.
Yes, they are. Now, Jacksonville is a little bit of an enigma here, but they were really, really, really eyeing, Brian Branch in the first. And I think that that's still a position that they need. They need to fill that slot corner. And I think that Cam Smith out of South Carolina, I think he's destined to bump inside to play slot corner at the next level. And there you go. They need help in that DB room, all up and down the DB room, whether it's outside corner, whether it's safety, whether it's whatever. And I have Cam Smith as the next best player on my board. And so there's the pick.
There is the pick, and the Giants are on the board. Yeah, I'm not going to hesitate here. The Giants are going to go ahead and take Trenton Simpson, inside linebacker. from Clemson. He digressed last year when they moved him to an off-ball spot. I think an inside linebacker in Wink Martindale's system is asked more to rush than to play, static in the box, so on and so forth. And I think that's where you're going to put his skill set in best use. So Trenton Simpson's off the board.
Yep, it's a great pick. You're back on the clock with Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas. Dallas can go a bunch of different ways here. Dallas. What does Dallas want? I'd love to fill that offensive line, give them a little bit more depth here. But I just don't know if I see the value of anyone on the board here.
I don't.
Yeah, that wave has ended, especially on the inside. Let's look at the depth chart. Get a better scoop of what Dallas is working with here. You're going to need, at some point, to put a replacement in there for Tyron Smith. I mean, he's aging like, when was he drafted? 2010, for Christ's sakes?
He's old, man.
They drafted the kid Matt Waletzko last year, small school kid, but I don't know if he's got the chops to really step in. The problem is I just don't really love the tackles here. So on the defensive side of the ball, I know that they spent money or capital in going and getting Stephon Gilmore. They have obviously Trayvon Diggs. So I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to take a slot cornerback who hasn't been talked about enough. He is sticky as could be. He's small, but he's sticky. I'm going to take Clark Phillips III from Utah. I think he fits the scheme.
I for sure thought it was Emmanuel Forbes.
No, Emmanuel Forbes is an outside guy. I think that their hole on their defensive side, really it's defensive tackle. I just don't, like I said, I'm not going to reach for a guy like, Siaki Ika or Zach Pickens here. Clark Phillips makes sense. Like I said, he's a slot cornerback, sticky in man coverage, small hitter. Go get him. Clark Phillips is a good pick. I like it.
No, it's a great pick. And the Bills they were sweating bullets there. They were sweating bullets because they thought there's no way we're going to lose out on the running back again, are we? And they don't. And so they're going to take Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA. They need to develop some type of run game in Buffalo. And
yeah, he's a good thunder and lightning to what they have already.
Yeah.
That's
exactly what I thought. He's a great compliment. And they've got the Cook brother. I forget his first name.
James.
They've got James Cook. Now you got Zach Charbonnet. I don't know if they still have Singletary or whoever else is in that
Singletary's
backfield.
in Houston.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Did not know that. But whatever it is, they still got their pieces there, and they're gonna do. I think that they're gonna do well, obviously, with that. Now the Bengals are on the board, and obviously they took this sexy pick, with going,
Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid in the first round. But now they have to start addressing the defensive side of the ball. They have to start getting their guys. And I'm going to do exactly what we talked about earlier in the draft about Kelly Ringo. I think that they're going to draft Kelly Ringo. They lost both of their safeties, in free agency. They did draft Daxton Hill last year, I think at the bottom of the first round. But they're going to take Kelly Ringo, and they're going to move him to the free safety spot so that they can have Daxton Hill and Kelly Ringo playing their defense, covering over the top of their defense.
Yeah, I like that. And listen, they have needs at cornerback too. So, I mean, Kelly Ringo can play cornerback if necessary. I think ultimately, he ends up as a safety. I've said that from the get-go. Big physical guy too. So I like that pick for them.
Got the next 4 picks.
Wow. Chicago's not going to hesitate here. And just the value is way, way too high. They're going to take B.J. Ojolari. Take him off the board. Just another good defensive player to put on that, on that Matt Eberflus defense. And that leaves Philly on the board. They've taken Skoronski and Adebaware. And they are now... Ooh, do I do that for them? I think I do. I know there's been a lot of talk of a Derrick Henry trade, but we're going to assume that doesn't happen. And I'm going to go ahead and take Israel Abanikanda, the running back from Pittsburgh, slide in there and, becomes a timeshare guy with Kenneth Gainwell. He's just fast as could be and speed kills.
I can tell you right now the Houston Texans at 65 are fuming.
They signed Devin Singletary. They're good.
Yeah, because that moves the needle.
Seattle's back on the board. Jesus, they keep picking and picking and picking.
One more pick with Seattle, man. They got a million picks.
So Seattle can take best available here.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And take Isaiah Foskey off the board.
I like edge.
Yeah, edge rusher. Flexibility. He's good in pass coverage as well. Did a lot of that at Notre Dame. Yeah. So he comes
Real
off the board.
outside linebacker is the best way to. I like to think of.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, and he'll slide in nice there, and they've had themselves a nice little haul so far.
Yeah, this might be another year where we're talking about winners of the draft being Seattle, and it's just with the sheer amount of players that they have, and it's in this year's draft with obviously the top end talent is hit or miss. There's some guys that you're just not a fan of or you are a fan of. But when you get to these middle parts of the round where Seattle has a ton of picks, it's hard for them to mess up because you can shoot. You can be like, hey, that's not a bad player, especially in Seattle's fit, and that's a good way to look at it. And we're done with the second round, and now we're in uncharted territory. We're in the third round. Of the mock draft.
Third round of the mock draft. Here we go. And we're going to kick it off with Chicago, who have they taken so far? Can you tell me?
B.J. Ojolari, Felix Anudike Uzoma, and Paris Johnson, I believe. And Paris Johnson.
Okay, I'm going to give them a little bit more. I mean, I know they traded for Claypool last year. He's their size. He's their big slot, right? You got your 9 guy in Darnell Mooney. You got your move guy in DJ Moore. So that wide receiver core looks nice. Even the backups there aren't terrible. They signed Robert Tonyan too. I didn't know that.
Yep, they did that early.
To back up Cole Kmet, I kind of like that actually.
Yeah.
Kind of like that a lot. Okay, that changes things. I'll tell you, I was really thinking Jonathan Mingo here for them. But I think I'm going to pivot, and I think I'm going to go to the defensive side of the board. And I'm going to take a guy who's going to fit their zone scheme defense really, really well, and take Julius Brents, the cornerback out of Kansas State.
Yeah, Julius Brents making it to the third round here is surprising to me. I really like Julius Brents. He's a great athlete, and I think that, like you said, in a zone-heavy scheme, I think he can do a lot of really, really good things. And then the Texans, they're back on the clock. Their 2 first-round picks, obviously they took the quarterback, then they took Lucas Van Ness, and then they took the center, skipping out on the wide receiver. And I think it pays off for them in the end. They have their big body target in Nico Collins. They're getting Mechie back from he beat out obviously cancer and all that stuff, and that's
Thank
great
God, right?
to hear from him. It's always nice when you see that. But I'm going to take one of my favorite players in this year's wide receiver room. Slot guy can immediately come in and is just an upgrade. I'm going to take Tank Dell. I don't know if he's going to be able to really bump outside with his size. It's not a matter of skill set. It's a matter of strength. But we'll see. Adding wide receivers for your young quarterback and Will Levis is always going to be has to be a priority in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree. And Arizona's up, and I'm going to make this pick with the assumption, although it hasn't happened yet, with the assumption that D-Hop is no longer going to be a Cardinal come draft day. And I'm going to take the guy that I considered for Chicago, and Jonathan Mingo. I think this is way too low for him. I think he's probably going to go somewhere in the second round, but he slides in and fits in nice as a complement to the speed that they already have in Rondell Moore and Hollywood Brown. So Jonathan Mingo is an Arizona Cardinal.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense for them. The Denver Broncos, for the first time in this draft, are making a pick, and they're making back-to-back picks. And I think with the first of these two picks, it really comes down to what they believe for their system and for their scheme and what they need and what they want. I'm going to make the easy pick first. I'm going to take Luke Whippler out of Ohio State, the center, so that they can slot in immediately. They paid a bunch of money to Mike McGlinchey. They brought in Powers, but Cushenberry is not good. I think Luke Whippler can come in and immediately start competing there for that job. But now the conversation becomes Emmanuel Forbes is one hell of a weapon. Like I believe that. It's just one hell of a weapon.
160 pounds, man.
But he's 160 pounds. But he's not going to be asked to go against number one wide receivers in Denver because they have the second best corner in football in Patrick Surtain.
It's a fair point.
I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop the fall. I love how Emmanuel Forbes plays, but the reason I haven't picked him yet, and I think the reason you haven't picked him yet, is because he's 166 pounds. But when you have a number one corner in the NFL, or the number two corner in the NFL, like a true shutout number one corner, you can ask him, you can give him over the top safety help, you can put Surtain on an island, and you can worry less about his size. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
And the Rams are up
Yep.
at pick 69. And the last year's Joseph Noteboom at left tackle era was a disaster. They just need to bring in talent all along that offensive line. I'm going to go with the athletic freak in Blake Freeland. And hope that he can slide in at left tackle, and if not, you're going to have one hell of an athletic guard. This guy moves as well as anybody at 6'8".
I love it. Now, I have the Raiders up on the board right now, obviously, and I'm having a hard time with them. Obviously, they still need help along the defensive line. We know that. But there's no one on the defensive line that I feel super comfortable with right now. Nick Herbig is a linebacker. He's not going to be an edge at the next level. And I think I'm going to take a corner here. And I think I'm going to take Corey Trice, the corner out of Purdue.
Spicy.
I like Corey Trice, like a lot. He's a lot higher on my board than a lot of other teams or a lot of other places that I've seen. But Corey Trice, like worst case scenario, Corey Trice is your nickel corner that like you just run all the time, and he's your tight end eraser. Best case scenario, he's a really big outside corner.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the beauty of this exercise here, because we haven't talked about guys like Corey Trice. We haven't talked a lot about guys like Blake Freeland, Emmanuel Forbes.
Man, you get Blake Freeland. I wanted to say this, and I forgot because I was thinking about what the Raiders were going to do. But if you get Blake Freeland, and you just tell him you're never skipping leg day, that's his biggest problem is his lower half. Just get him to hit legs 6 days a week and watch out, because I think Blake Freeland has the potential to be a legitimate tackle in the NFL.
Yeah. Who's up? I'm up with
You're
the
up.
Saints. The Saints have taken Miles Murphy, the edge, and Luke Musgrave, the tight end, at 40, and they're shocked that this guy's still on the board, so they're not going to hesitate much further. They're going to take Drew Sanders from Arkansas. Perfect fit.
Yeah. That's a great pick for them.
Yep. Slides in at the Sam all day long. Tennessee, you're on the board for 3.
Yeah, I am. And I'm having a hard time here with Tennessee because I don't love the way that the board has played out for Tennessee in this position. They took Jordan Addison in the first round. They took Matthew Bergeron in the second round, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go on the defensive line. I want to get them like another outside linebacker. And I'm looking at a guy like Nick Herbig and thinking, is that a player that can do that? I'm looking at a guy like Trevarius Hodges-Tomlinson or Darius Rush and thinking, like, can they took McCreary last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you partner him with someone there? Is there a safety here that I like? Is this where Sidney Brown goes? You know, Illinois just produces safeties.
Defensive back you.
But I think the corner is a bigger need. And I don't know. I'm going to take the bigger of the two corners to guarantee that we can get an outside guy of the guys that I like. I'm taking Darius Rush, the cornerback out of South Carolina. I'm a big Darius Rush fan. Don't get me wrong. I love Tre'Vius Hodges-Tomlinson as well. But when it came down to it, they have used so many picks on corners that haven't worked out. They took who's the corner that they took? Caleb Farley a couple of years ago. He just hasn't worked out. Roger McCreary, he looked rough last year. You know, it's time to really solidify that room. I know that they brought in Sean Murphy-Bunting. That shouldn't dissuade you from going out and getting a guy that you need. And then the Texans, they're back on the clock here with this pick. And this was a pick that like I wanted like to maybe for this guy to fall to the New York Jets and to keep falling and to keep falling. Oh, that was weird. But he's not going to fall anymore. I was ready to take this player with the New York Jets pick at 50, but he's here at 73. I'm taking Deion Henley, the linebacker, to go to Houston and fix not fix, that's the wrong word, right? But to really bolster up that linebacker room. They've injected a ton of talent into that linebacker room. They signed Perryman. They signed one other guy that I forget his name. So they've invested a ton of assets there. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still a need for them. And now, for the first time in this draft, the Cleveland Browns are on the clock.
Wow.
For the first time in this draft. Now, we know that they obviously traded for Elijah Moore to put with Amari Cooper. And I am not a Donovan Peoples-Jones guy. Right? Like, I'm just not. So I'm looking at wide receiver here. But
you're looking at wide receiver over defensive tackle? I think this smells defensive tackle.
I know, right? But they did bring in Dalvin Tomlinson. Think they probably still need another one, right? Yeah, they need another one. And they're going to probably... Let's look at the interior of the defensive line. Nope. Oh, I don't like giving them good players because I don't like the Cleveland Browns, but I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to draft Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest. I didn't want to make that pick. I love Kobe Turner. When you look at his size and measurables and all of the things that he does, I like to think of him, not with the same skill set, but I like to think of him as like a Sheldon Rankins clone. They're the same height, they're the same weight, and they're both guys that are positives in the pass game, not super positives in the run game. And he can definitely come in and he's definitely an upgrade to what they have now. And
Yeah,
the thing
for
I love
sure.
about Kobe Turner is that he played 4 years at a smaller university. I think he played D2, I actually think is what it was. Transferred over to Wake Forest for his last year of eligibility in the 5th year, and everyone expected him to take a dip, but that even in to take a dip in his production, but that dip would still get him to a draftable grade. No, he got better going to the ACC and playing against ACC competition. So I love me some Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest. And boom, you now get a pick.
I do, huh? Let's see here. The Falcons.
Yep.
And they've taken who are they taking? Devin Witherspoon and Hendon Hooker.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to give them. Yeah. This is kind of easy for me. Well, not really easy, but I think it's a pick that makes sense. Looking at their wide receivers, they got Drake London. We know what Drake London is. He's your Alpha X. They signed Scotty Miller to play the slot. They lost what was that weird name? Ola Demus, whoever he was.
I don't know.
So they got Scotty Miller to play the slot. They signed Mac Hollins to play on the outside. I'm going to give them another guy who can compete with Mac Hollins, be a real deep threat on the team. Trey Palmer from Nebraska, wide receiver, fast, good in and out of his breaks. A very, very good complement to what they already have. Trey Palmer, you are an Atlanta Falcon.
I have the New England Patriots at 76. I love the Trey Palmer pick. The Jets have met with Trey Palmer. Great wide receiver, great speed, deep threat, just like you said. And New England is going to follow in a very similar suit. And this was a guy I thought that you might have taken with the Falcons. But I'm going to take a very, very intelligent wide receiver. I'm going to take Michael Wilson out of Stanford. If he wasn't hurt, if he didn't have all the injuries, if he didn't have all that stuff, Michael Wilson would be a much, much better pick, much, much higher on people's boards. But I like Michael Wilson. You need to get a wide receiver. They need to get players in that room, and that's exactly what they're doing here.
Yeah. And the Rams are back up. So far, the Rams have taken Will McDonald, the edge from Iowa State, and Blake Freeland, the offensive tackle from BYU. Still a lot of holes to fix on this Rams team. I think I know where I'm going to go. I just want to see something real quick on their board. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I'm going to go ahead and use the pick on a very, very versatile defensive back. Probably one of my favorite safety prospects in this class, although he's not listed as a safety here in the simulator that I use. He's got that flexibility inside outside. I'm going to take Jartavius Martin from DBU.
Yep. You have been raving on Martin for weeks now.
His skill set is so good and it's so versatile. I think he's probably the best pure free safety in this draft. I know they have him listed here as a slot corner because in Illinois, he played very similar to he took over the role that Tony Adams did. That rover, that overhang safety / cornerback, and we saw how well that transferred for Tony Adams for the New York Jets as a free safety. I think the play for Jartavius Martin is going to be the same exact thing for the Rams. I love the guy. I love the player. Ideal pick right here. I probably would have taken him for Green Bay right here as well, but I'm going to kind of shift tunes.
What has Green Bay done in the draft already, if you don't mind me
Green
asking?
Bay has taken Michael Mayer at 13, Cedric Tillman at 42, and slot cornerback Antonio Johnson.
Yes, okay, good.
In the in their
It was
with
that
their
first
other
round
pick.
pick that I need to remember, because if not, you were going to get a trade offer. But since you took Michael Mayer, I'm less interested.
Yeah, I'm going to. Man, those pickings are slim there. Let's see here. The Green Bay Packers. Adrian Amos is back. Adrian Amos is not back, is he?
No, he's not. They did not bring him back. He is still a free agent.
Darnell Savage is getting up there too. I don't know if he's re-signed or they're going to re-sign him. So I'm on the fence here. I'm thinking safety might be in play. I could see a guy like Jordan Battle or Jamie Robinson sliding into one of the starting safety spots. They could also use another edge rusher, although I'm not crazy about the value here.
No, the edge rushers flew off the board.
Yeah, and defensive tackle's not a bad option either. I know they spent some high capital on Devontae Wyatt, but they play him kind of outside at a 5 tech. Yeah, I'm going to go with my gut here, and I'm going to take Jamie Robinson. And, he's going to slide in and play free safety with the opportunity to play strong safety if or when they move off of Darnell Savage. Jamie Robinson, you are a Green Bay Packer.
Yeah. And he can play that slot corner. Jamie Robinson provides a ton of versatility. He was a guy that I had honed in on early because I tend to start watching the Florida schools early because obviously I'm here in Florida. They're on TV. I can watch those guys. And Jamie was a guy that I honed in on really, really early as a watch out because this kid's going to go earlier than I think people expect. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock, and I think this pick is really easy for the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think he has any business being down here this far, and that's Tucker Kraft, the tight end out of South Dakota State.
Yep.
I was looking at tight end in the top of the second, with the Colts. I was looking at Sam Laporta, Luke Musgrave, and those guys. But to be able to still get a guy that I have a second-round grade on in the third and still get the best guard in this class, arguably, great draft. Great draft by Indianapolis so far.
And you're on the board with Pittsburgh, and I'll refresh. Pittsburgh has taken Joey Porter at 17, DeJuan Jones at 32, and Mozzie Smith at 49.
Yes, they have. I feel like at this point, you have to... You're still probably looking at the defensive side of the ball, right? If you're Pittsburgh, do you feel comfortable with your offense? You traded for Robinson, you have Antonio Johnson, you got Pickens, you got Pickett, you addressed the offensive line, you've got Freiermuth, so you're not really looking at a tight end there. You got the interior defensive lineman, you drafted a corner.
So have they replaced the question is, have they replaced
Patrick Peterson?
Edwards? Have they replaced Edwards? They could use another corner. I mean, Arthur Millette is a starting nickel. They did. They signed Keanu Neal to play strong safety opposite Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yes, and they are really, really high on DeMonte Kazi or KZ or whatever his name is. They play him a ton. As well.
And
So,
it might be inside linebacker is the area I'd look.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking too. And
I know
I'm
where
looking,
I'd go with them. I know where I'd go with them.
I'm looking at DeMarvion Overshown here. Oh, but I don't know if that's the right fit.
Nah, he's not. He's not. You got to think. You got to think inside linebacker, 3-4, traditional guy here for Pittsburgh. I'm not trying to sell you on one way or another. I'm just telling you, I don't think.
I'm between DeMarvion Overshown and Ivan Pace. No, because Ivan Pace is small. Is it Papo?
No.
I don't know.
If you're asking me,
What are you thinking here?
If you're asking me, I think it's either Noah Sewell or Ivan Pace. They're your 3-4 inside linebackers.
Noah Sewell's a big linebacker. Yeah, but I feel like Ivan Pace is just a little too small.
He's so good. He's so good, dude. I'm very high on Ivan Pace, but if again, I'm not trying to sway you. You're asking me my opinion. Those are the two. Those are the two I'd go. If linebackers,
Yeah, they're
the
going
area you're looking
linebacker
at.
here. I have Ivan Pace higher on my board than Noah. I'm gonna go Ivan Pace here. I don't love the pick. I would have loved Jack Campbell, but no, you had to ruin that dream. He's a
Ivan
thumper.
Pace.
He can get moving. Ivan Pace. That's the good thing. He gets out in space, and he can, even though he's a smaller guy, he can drop a shoulder if he needs to.
Yeah.
Can be a net positive in the run game, And while not the best guy in coverage, they don't really ask their linebackers to play coverage. They ask their linebackers to really kind of fill gaps and meet King Henry face on.
Yeah. So Washington's up, and they're just going to continue and build some depth here on the offensive side of the ball.
Got the next 3 picks.
I do. Yeah. Well, they signed Nick Gates, and he's a backup center and kind of sort of an interior guy. They also signed the right tackle to a big contract from Kansas City, Andrew Wiley. But I'm going to go ahead and just continue to give them some flexibility and depth on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to give them Tyler Steen. He's a guy that can, I think he can settle as right tackle and your Charles Leno replacement. And at worst, he fills in and he's a backup guard with the possibility of developing into a good starting guard in the league. Tyler Steen's the pick from Alabama.
Yep. Again, I'm not the biggest Tyler Steen fan.
Yeah, I happen to
tackle.
like him a little bit more than you do. I know that.
But it's specifically at tackle because I think he's built to be a guard in the next level. And if you're looking at him to play on the inside, I think that's a great spot for him to land. And I think he can be a good guard. I just don't know if he has the skill set to be a tackle, But we'll see.
Tampa's up. Tampa can go a couple different ways here. There's some guys here still like on this board, man. It's crazy how the value from like pick 45 to 85 is
all the same.
Is really, really good. Tampa. What did I pick here? I didn't pick Tampa. Tampa Bay. Picked the wrong red team. Wow. Yeah. So who did I take with Tampa? Can you refresh my memory here?
You've taken Keon White, edge out of Georgia Tech, and Anton Harrison, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma.
Keon White and Anton Harrison. Man, Tampa has a lot of holes. Yeah, I'm going to. I thought I was going to take a wide receiver, but because they are bad. Outside of their top 3, and that's including Russell Gage, there is just no depth there. But the value of these guys here at wide receiver,
not great.
I'm just not crazy about. Like Kayshon Boutte, I love his talent, but there's just so many red flags here. I think it might be a little too early for a guy like Jaden Reed or Xavier Hutchinson. I'm not the highest on Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I'm gonna Tyler Scott on a.
Yeah, he's really, really, really small. I mean, he's quick, but I'm gonna stick to the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to take a cornerback, guy I saw very close at the Senior Bowl, that I liked a lot as well, and that's Kyu Blu Kelly, cornerback from Stanford. Good athlete, good, almost a 9 RAS score. He can flip his hips and run, outside and inside versatility. Kyu Blu Kelly.
Had to go
Welcome
looking
to
for him.
Tampa Bay.
PFF's not the biggest fan of Kyu Blu Kelly.
Really?
Yeah, they have him as like 180 something.
Oh, well, they're wrong. How about that? And I'm up with Seattle again. They're
Yep.
6th pick in the top 83. How crazy is
Final
that?
Seattle pick of the draft, or of this
Yeah.
mock draft.
Jalen Carter, Darnell Washington, Jalen Hyatt, Cody Mock, Isaiah Foskey. Let's stick to the defensive side of the ball here. Yes, sir. I'm thinking scheme for them, right? You know what I mean? I'm thinking zone-based cornerback who's very quick, who can throttle down. Jalen Jones out of Texas A&M, 6'2", 200. You're putting some big bodies to play on the outside. He's a depth piece for now, but he's such a good fit for Seattle. Outside, opposite of Tyreek Woolen. You know, you got some dogs right there.
Yeah. Miami's on the board, and Miami is going to go again. They're going to go offensive line here, and they're going to go on a guy that I'm really, really high on, and that's Nick Saldivieri, the offensive tackle out of Old Dominion. I know that he's an obscure name for some people, but Nick Saldivieri is a guy that he's another one of these guys in this class that at worst, he's your starting guard. At best, he's your starting tackle. And Nick Saldivieri, of the guys in this draft that I have transitioned from tackle to guard, is up there with Bergeron of guys that should be given a shot at tackle. You know, there are some guys that I've looked and bumped inside. I don't think they should be given a shot at all. Steen is one of those guys. I wouldn't give him a shot at tackle. I would just make him a guard. But Nick Saldivieri, Bergeron, those are two guys that I say, you know what? I'll give you a shot, but more than likely you're going to bump inside, and that's what I'm thinking there.
This is a little rich for me, but I'm not controlling Miami. You are. So you're up with the Jets. I'm curious here. So Broderick Jones went at 15, and Tuipulotu. I can't never say his last name. Tuipulotu.
This is such an interesting spot for the New York Jets.
Okay.
They shouldn't have this pick here in the third, obviously, because this is the pick that we traded with, you know, with Elijah Moore. And I'm looking at the board and the players that are here, and I'm not in love with any of the players that are here. I'm not a Siaki guy for the Jets. I'm not an Ojimo guy when you look at the interior defensive lineman. Well, let me correct that. I'm not an Ojimo guy here. With the Jets' next pick, I think he'll be there. That makes a ton of sense. DeMarvion Overshown is a guy that I'm super interested at, but he's a safety converted to a linebacker. He's a project. I think we need more of a impactful starter. You can get a guy a little bit later that can do that, right? This pick is difficult. Dorian Williams is still here, though. That's the pick. I'm going to take Dorian Williams here out of Tulane.
I love it. I absolutely love the pick.
Yeah. He's a guy that I think is going to immediately push for that starting job over Quincy. And if not, if Quincy goes down, you've got a super solid backup. And you've got a guy that just great in coverage. If you ever run 3 linebacker sets, I feel really comfortable with a guy like Dorian Williams coming up off of the bench. And the way that I look at this is I feel really comfortable. I know a lot of people aren't as high on him as I am, but Jamie Sherwood I think is the C.J. Mosley replacement. And now I've done is I've the Quincy replacement, and he's got the same last name. We got 3 Williamses now on the defense.
Dorian Williams off the board for the Jets. And Baltimore's up.
Baltimore is on the clock. What has Baltimore done?
Baltimore has taken Nolan Smith at 22, their only pick so far.
Oh, only pick the Nolan Smith. Interesting. This was going to be the Hendon Hooker pick if you didn't take him 1 round too early. This was going to be the Hendon Hooker pick.
Watch for Hendon Hooker going at the end of round 1.
Yeah,
watch
probably.
watch for one of these teams trading up into the end of round 1 to get the 5th round on them.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense for them to do something like that. I'm gonna get a corner here. They've got Marlon. Is it Marlon? I believe it was Marlon Humphrey. Yeah, it's Marlon Humphrey. They got Marlon Humphrey out there, and I like Trevius Hodges Tomlinson. I think he's a good corner, and in the 3rd round, it's good value. That's really what it is. It's good value. I don't love any of the edges here. I think this is still a little too rich for the edge position. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, he's slot only. That's the only downside. He's a small guy, Tomlinson. I believe he's actually related to LaDainian, if I'm not mistaken.
Look at that.
Stepbrother or cousin or one of the two. So I'm up with Minnesota. And Minnesota's only had 1 pick, and that was Brian Branch, the cornerback. I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball for sure. Yes, sir. This might be. So here's what I'm thinking. All right, I'm definitely taking a wide receiver. Okay,
Yep.
And I'm trying to think about the fit opposite of JJ, right? Because right now they got KJ Osborne in the slot. You lost Adam Thielen. Jalen Rager's there, who's really just a go guy. Blake Prohl is a backup. I want somebody with a bigger body. I want somebody who is athletic because that's going to fit the scheme. You're going to need somebody that can get downfield. So maybe a little early, but I don't think too early. I'm going to go ahead and take Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia off the board. 6'4", 225. He's
Sub 440.
Sub 440. He can be your boundary guy and really hurt you just like DK can.
Jesus. Yeah, this is hilarious because the comps I keep hearing for Bryce Ford Wheaton is discount DK Metcalf.
That's right.
And this is a surprise pick because here's to me thinking that the New York Jets, who have met with Bryce Ford Wheaton, by the way, here's to me thinking that we're going to be able to get him in the 5th. Nope, he's gone in the 3rd. This is a great.
You go get your guys. You go get your guys, right?
No, I agree. Especially at this point in the draft, it's a crapshoot. At this point, you're just getting the guys that you like.
Yep.
The Jags are on the board. And this is interesting. They went. Who did I have them draft? I just looked this up. Cam Smith and John Michael Schmitz. And so they're back up on the board. What am I thinking here? I don't know what I'm thinking.
Jacksonville?
For Jacksonville.
Cam Smith, John Michael Schmitz.
I'll think out loud.
Okay.
They got John Michael Schmitz. He's going to play the offensive lineman. He's going to play the center there. Right? That's great. They have Scherf. Hopefully he can stay healthy and they can do all that. But you are right. Walker Little is currently slated as their offensive tackle. And there's a guy like, there's Wanya Morris, Jalen Duncan. I like those guys.
Yeah.
But is this too early for a guy like that? And
No.
then I'm looking on the other
I don't
side.
think so.
I don't think so either.
Now the question is I'm answering your question. So I think this is the area where both of these guys can come off the board. So your question is
are they going to be there by the next pick?
They're not going to be there by the next pick probably, but the question is, if you're pulling in between those two, do you want Jalen Duncan, who's a left tackle, or do you want Wanya Morris, who's a right tackle?
That's what I'm looking at right now, right? Because, like,
Both of them have some developmental, traits. I don't know if either of them are plug and play,
no.
but I think they're both very good football players.
I want to say you take Jalen Duncan and just see if you can play him at right tackle, because I like Jalen Duncan over Wanya Morris. But Wanya Morris is more ready to come in immediately and play at right tackle if he needed to. Because you're not worried about the left tackle with Robinson. Because they paid him. They gave him the bag, right? Or did they tag him?
No, they paid him.
They paid him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't need the left tackle. Yeah, I'm going to take Wanya Morris here. They needed the tackle. I just didn't know if this felt wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like there should have been another pick here, but there isn't.
And I'm up with the New York Giants. Can you refresh me on who I've taken so far?
Players. Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson. And Quentin Johnson, wide receiver out of Texas Christian University. When I was a kid, I went years not knowing that the letters of the schools meant something, that they're just abbreviations. I thought that was the name of the school. Like really? TCU, I just thought that was the name of the school. I didn't realize that it meant something, like, at all. I thought there were some schools that were just letters and that there were some schools that had names. And that was it.
So let me talk this out with the Giants here. I've addressed
I'm kidding.
I've addressed wide receiver. I've addressed linebacker, both needs. You can use some depth on the offensive line.
I was going to say, Chandler Zavala's on here. I don't know if you like him or not. Pure guard.
He's a pure guard. And they drafted Josh Azudu out of North Carolina last year. They really liked him. They took him early. They took him in the third round.
Yep.
They also have Mark Lewinsky, who they paid, not handsomely, but they paid him. Right now, Ben Bredenson is their starting center. Ideally, a center might be best, or a guy that has guard center flexibility. Along the defense, they've brought in Bobby Okereke. I filled the middle linebacker spot with Trenton Simpson, which I think is a good play. The cornerbacks, who they started, Dory Jackson, they start Cordell Flott, they start Darnay Holmes.
Ooh, Holmes is garbage.
I don't know.
That would be a good fit.
A cornerback. Listen, I'm thinking cornerback. I'm also thinking safety.
That's another one.
Xavier McKinney at free safety. Bobby McCain is their starting strong safety right now. They lost. Yeah, there's some good strong safeties here. Strong safety guys. This would be a perfect spot for Jamie Robinson, but he's already off the board.
Can I throw a wrinkle into that?
Sure.
Is this maybe where you look at getting a running back?
Yeah,
Saquon might not play on the tag.
Yeah, no, he's going to play on the tag, but I thought running back. Here's the catch. I love me some Zach Evans. I really do. But I don't think the drop-off from Zach Evans to the next tier of guys like Sean Tucker, Rashawn Johnson, Chase Brown is all that huge. Whereas the opposite side of the ball, the cornerback room has been picked pretty clean. DJ Turner's not going to be a fit, I don't think, in this scheme. Oh man, he's so good though. He's so fast, DJ Turner. I'm gonna go ahead and take a safety.
Do it.
Yeah. I'm going to take a strong safety. I'm going to take one that I really, really like, and his name's not Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown, I think, just misses way too many tackles for my liking. I'm going to take Jair Brown.
Ooh, what a
The
Penn
strong
State! I love it.
the strong safety out of Penn State. I think he can come in there and he can. He does his best work in the box, blitzing those lightning blitzes. I think he's going to be a Wink Martindale kind of guy.
Oh, I love it. This is great. That's a great pick.
Yeah, and Tampa's on the board again.
Yep.
I'm going to make this.
Caillou
gonna-
Blue Kelly.
Yep.
Keon White. Anton Harrison.
And add Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end out of Michigan, to that mix. Passed on a wide receiver yet again, but they're still the fourth round.
That you did. While I talk about Luke Schoonmaker real quick, can you find out what Tennessee has done for me, please?
I sure can.
Luke Schoonmaker met with the New York Jets. They actually had a private meeting with him at his pro day, which was very, very interesting. An interesting tidbit there. But I like Luke Schoonmaker. This is one of those classes where, like, there's a lot of really good tight ends in this class. And
Yeah.
Schoonmaker's another one of those guys. I like to put him in that Jeremy Ruckert kind of tier of tight ends. Like, they have really high upsides, but they need work. They need help getting there. And that's what Luke Schoonmaker is. This guy who needs work. He needs help. This is not a win now pick. This is we're going to lose early, but by the time he gets good, we'll be better because we'll have
Yeah.
Caleb Williams.
Probably. Tennessee so far, they took Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from USC. They took Matthew Bergeron, the offensive lineman from Syracuse, and they took the underrated cornerback from South Carolina, Darius Rush.
Fantastic. I think you have to address at some point in time. You have to go here. You have to go running back. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with Derrick Henry, whether he's going to get traded, whether he's whatever going to happen here. And there are a couple of guys I'm big fans of. But I think I'm going to try to, okay, I'm going to think this out loud, and I want you to help me get there.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking Rashawn Johnson, who would be a much higher running back if he just didn't play in Texas. I think that 100%. If he would have transferred out of Texas, and if he was given the opportunity to be the bell cow at some other university, we would have been talking about him more. And then Tank Bigsby out of Auburn.
Tank, I think, is the third down guy only. Personally, he's not my cup of tea. If you're looking at running back and looking at what Tennessee wants to do and really establish the run, between those two, I think it's Rashawn Johnson. But I wouldn't downplay Chase Brown either. I think Chase Brown's a really good running back. I don't know where you have him on the board.
It's not a matter of Chase Brown not being a fit. I'm trying to find the running back in this class that's the closest thing to the skill set that Derrick Henry brings. Now, that's impossible, right? Because he's Derrick Henry. But I think the thing that Tennessee values is those runs between the tackles and just big hitting guys. And that's where I looked at a guy like Tank Bigsby and Rashawn Johnson because they're carrying extra meat on the bone. And that's why I was maybe thinking Tank Bigsby is because he's big. But I love me some Rashawn Johnson. I think you make a good point. Rashawn Johnson can play 3 downs if you need him to. Tank Bigsby really comes in on those short yardage situations, and that's kind of where he goes. So I'm going to take Rashawn Johnson, the running back.
Yeah, and you're back up with the Bengals.
And I'm going to go wild here.
Okay.
This is a pick that I don't think people are expecting them to make. But they are about to have to pay Joe Burrow. And right now they have one quarterback on the roster. After going and getting some of these different guys, I think that there are a couple of quarterbacks in this class late that you can look at to be backups that are going to be cheap, that can sit behind Joe Burrow. And I'm going to take a guy that I'm a big fan of, and I'm going to take Dorian Thompson-Robinson here out of UCLA.
Wow, that is spicy.
Yes.
I don't even have a draftable grade on him.
Yeah, he's a project, man. He's a project to be a backup and all that stuff. I love his
I think
talent.
there's a better chance, and I'm not trying to discredit your pick here, but I think there's a better chance that he turns into a gadget gimmicky kind of player like Cordell Patterson than he does stick at quarterback.
Really? I think he sticks at quarterback. This is another disagreement. I'm
That's
a little
okay.
bit higher on Dorian Thompson. No, I like it when we have these because now it's a different conversation. It was between him and Tanner Mackey, but with that offensive line and how much Joe Burrow is running for his life, I went with the way more athletic guy in Dorian Thompson Robinson. And then you just hope. Look, first of all, you hope he never has to see the field, right? He's a cheap, cost-controlled backup for the next 4 years while Joe Burrow is making $75 million a year, right? And that's what this pick is for. Get a guy with some upside that you can believe in, and he's a backup. You're a backup to Joe Burrow, who doesn't get hurt, really, outside of his rookie year. Doesn't get hurt, plays all the time, and there you go.
Dorian Thompson Robinson, you are a Cincinnati Bengal. Not the pick I would have made, but you're a Bengal nonetheless. I am up with Carolina. I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, I'm going to take an edge rusher here. I'm going to just take the best edge that's left on my board. Derek Hall from Auburn. He's athletic. He's got a great He's got a great burst. He's kind of a tweener size-wise, you know. Can he stand up all the time? I don't know. Can he play 5-tech all the time? I don't know. But he can affect the pass rush. So I think you take, at this point, you take a talent like him and you figure it out. So Derek Hall, welcome to the team.
Yep.
And the Eagles are up. The Eagles have taken Skoronski, Adebaware, and Abanyakanda. God, look at these names they're taking here. Can't we get a Joe Smith or something like this, for Christ's sakes? Okay. Philadelphia. They're running it back here. Let's see what we got here. Yep, you got that, you got that, you got that. Okay, I'm good. I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go ahead and probably take what's groomed to be your Fletcher Cox replacement in Gervon Dexter from Florida.
Oh, break my heart.
Great talent, way too low. I mean, I don't love his effort play in and play out. He has a tendency to take plays off, but the talent's there. You pop him in there, next to Davis. Let him play the 3-tech. Let Davis play the nose after Fletcher Cox is gone, and it just makes sense. I like it.
Yep. Kansas City back on the board after a long wait. And they're going to take Jalen Duncan out of Maryland. And I think they're just going to do what I was saying earlier, and I think they're going to try to convert him to play on the right side. They just paid a ton of money, obviously, to Jawan Taylor. Mm-hmm. And they're going to play him on the left side. But you need to bring somebody in to compete with Niang. You can't just go into the year expecting that he's going to be your right tackle of the future. Would not be surprised if that's where George Fant ends up on like a cheap deal, something like that. But Jalen Duncan is a guy that I think has some potential, needs some work, all of that stuff, all the things that I mentioned before. And the biggest question with Jalen Duncan is, can you help him transition to the right side, and can you help him get good enough to be your starter? Jalen Duncan, welcome to the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
And I'm up with Arizona, who's taken Tyree Wilson, Joe Tippmann, and Jonathan Mingo. I'm going to go back to the defensive side of the ball, and I think this is where we see DJ Turner, the speedster, come off the board. They just need they need a revamp of that whole defensive backfield. So DJ Turner is an Arizona Cardinal, and I'm back up with Washington.
You're going to do a bunch of picks to wrap us up here.
Yeah, I am. Look at this. We're almost done. Washington, Deonte Banks at 18, Jack Campbell at 47, Tyler Steen at 81. And the Washington Commanders So they can actually probably address the offensive line again. I wouldn't hate them double dipping here. How much do they really love Sam Howell? Is another question.
I love Sam Howell.
Do you?
I was a big fan. I had Sam Howell with a first-round grade last year.
Wow.
I thought the failures at North Carolina were more about the team around him than him. It's the same way I look at like Will Levis with Kentucky. I think the failures of Will Levis this year were more about Kentucky being absolutely atrocious than they were about Will Levis.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I thought to get crazy a little bit here at the quarterback, but I'm not. I'm going to play smart. I'm going to go ahead and take the athletic freak from Old Dominion, Zach Kuntz, 6'7", 255, perfect 10 RAS score. Almost the same build as their current tight end. Zach Kuntz, welcome to Washington.
Great pick.
And you are up. And the only pick so far for the Cleveland Browns has been defensive tackle Kobe Turner out of Wake Forest.
Yep. I want to take Sidney Brown, right? And put him in there back there with Thornhill and kind of help fix that safety room. Del Pitt's not good. You can't do that. But then you're probably playing him at strong safety, and then he has a tackling issue. What do you do? This is too early for Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, way too early.
Like, way too early. J.L. Skinner's a linebacker. Like, that's just what he is. That's what he's going to be. But maybe that makes sense. But he has the torn pec. Is this where you take him?
If you're taking a linebacker, you're taking Nick Herbig. This is too late for him to be on the board, in my opinion.
No. I'm not thinking of. I had the thoughts. I didn't say them out loud. I said if you're going to play him as a linebacker, maybe you look at playing him as a big nickel, like as a tight end eraser, and not as a linebacker, like as a third safety. You know. But then he's injured.
Yeah. Probably the injury is not going to keep him in day 2. I think that's going to boost the.
Yeah, it's going to move him out, and that's. I honestly don't know what to do here. I don't know where to go. I don't know what the right answer is.
Cleveland?
Like with Cleveland, I don't know what. They have Owosu Koromoa, right?
Safety or edge?
It's safety or edge. But,
yeah.
I mean, is there an edge that I'm in love with here? Ooh, Isaiah McGuire, actually.
I like Isaiah McGuire a lot. I like Zach Harrison a lot. I think Zach Harrison's a really, really good player. I like them both. I mean, if you're going edge, I don't think you can go wrong with either of those two guys.
I'm gonna go McGuire because I think he's more of a true edge.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Isaiah McGuire. I forgot he was even on the board. That's a good pickup. I like that play. I found something. Let's go. All right, get ready for the first of 3 San Francisco picks. This is probably the Robert Saleh pick, followed up by the Josh McDaniel pick, or not Josh McDaniel, Mike McDaniel pick, followed up by the DeMeco Ryans pick.
Yeah. And San Francisco is a good team. They definitely need to fill some holes. And I think the first one for me is easy. They lost Mike McGlinchey, right?
Yes.
They currently have, I don't even know who the right tackle is. Jalen Moore? Is that who their right tackle is?
I have no. They lost McGlinchey. I have no idea who his backup was.
Yeah, I think it's his backup. But to me, this is pretty easy. I'm going to take Warren McClendon, the tackle from Georgia, have him slide over to the right side. 6'4", 306. Good athletic upside. Power, strength. It's an easy pick for me.
It's a good pick. I like the pick. I like the pick a lot. Now I'm going to talk out loud here.
Shoot.
I'm going to talk out loud here. Nick Herbig has no business being this far down, and they have a need specifically for a Sam linebacker, and they're a defense that uses a Sam linebacker.
Mhm.
And Nick Herbig could be the pick. But they also have a need for the interior of the offensive line, and I have yet to address that.
For who?
And
the Raiders?
I know I like Chandler Zavala. With how injury prone Jimmy Garoppolo is, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep him upright. I'm going to take Chandler Zavala, the guard out of North Carolina State.
Okay. And the final 2 picks, ladies and gentlemen,
We are
in
rounding
this
down.
3-round mock draft belong to San Francisco and belong to me. And I've already taken Warren McClendon to give them some tackle depth. They re-signed Jake Brendel. They have Trent Williams and Aaron Banks on the left side. This is just like they're in a good position, man, because they can just take depth and best player available
They really
for
can.
them. They absolutely can. So the first pick at 101, I'm going to take a guy that I absolutely adore. I think he's an offensive lineman that no one really knows on because he played at a small school, was a tackle, was very good. He's going to slide in and be depth all along that interior offensive line with the opportunity to kick outside. Big guy, 6'5", 330 pounds, athletic. And that's McClendon Curtis out of the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Yep. I was hovering him. You said 6'5", 330. I went right to him.
Yeah. So he makes sense there. I mean, I really thought about taking Voorhees here and just giving him his red shirt.
That's whatever team is doing that is setting themselves up for such a successful future, because he was going to be arguably one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the class, behind Torrance.
Yeah.
I had him in that same bucket as a Villa, and then he pulled tore his ACL.
Yeah. So to round out round 3, I'm gonna go with this guy. Total upside pick, something that I think that San Francisco is going to want. He's big. He plays a lot. He's not big, but he plays a lot bigger than he is. Athletically, very, very gifted. I think he could be a lockdown outside corner, but I think he'll probably start his career inside, and that's Carrington Valentine out of Kentucky. I mean, I'm just looking at the corners that are on the board. They could use a little bit more depth. I think he's going to be a guy who plays better in the pros than in college. Carrington Valentine is the pick.
And there is our mock draft. Guys, let us know what you think of all of the picks. They're going through your screen right now. Let us know what you think of what your team did and how they did. Dom, it was a blast this offseason. And what I mean by that is I always have fun with the draft, but it was a really, really, this is the first offseason in a long time that I've been able to go and butt heads with someone who is just as obsessed with the draft as I am. I know that there is only one person on planet Earth that watched more tape than me when it came to these prospects and when it came to these guys when it comes to the YouTube space, and that's you, Dom C. And I appreciate you for coming on the channel and doing these mock drafts. I had a ton of fun doing it. I hope you guys watching had a ton of fun watching us do this and go through this exercise. The draft is so close. Dom, what are your plans for the draft and what do you got coming up?
So, plans for the draft is hope I'm not disappointed by the Jets. And with JD at the helm, I don't think that's going to be the case. Realistically, listen, Thursday, I'm just going to stay home, I got a baseball game. My son's got a baseball game. Once that's over, that finishes at 8, so I'll be home by 8:15, just in time to see Bryce Young probably being called up onto the podium. And my plans are just to relax and just lay low on Thursday, going to work on Friday, gonna come home and just be available. I know I'm gonna be at some point with Green Bean and Ryan and Matt on the stream. I don't know if that's going to be Friday or Saturday, but I'm just going to be laying low, probably in front of my computer, cutting film on the guys that we do draft, so I can put some content out there for all you guys, and that's about it, man. And I'm sure that we will bump heads on a stream at some point over the weekend, man.
Oh, yeah. I will be on the Jets panel, the Talking Jets panel for the draft on Friday at 8:30, right around when the Jets are picking, hopefully. Because I believe day 2 starts at like 7 or something. It starts much earlier than day 1 does. But I'm very, very excited. Guys, thanks for stopping by. Dom, thanks for hanging out. Guys, this is the final mock draft of the 2023 offseason. We'll see you next year.
Peace.